again, but now we're kind of in a new setting yet again. So
Little bit cluttered this time.
a
But
little
you know
cluttered,
what?
definitely. So that's.
I don't think it's worth apologizing for that little
You're
hiatus.
like a little
Everybody's.
raised, by the way.
I am a little raised.
So I don't
I think
like
I
that.
like being that
I
high.
don't like that.
But no, I don't think it's right for us to. We constantly apologize in the other videos
Yeah.
about having a lot on our plate. Everybody has a lot on their plate. Whether you are trying to distract for yourself from your personal issues, trying to maybe realize your more superficial goals on the outside to distract yourself, or whether you're fully engaging your inner issues. Everybody's plate is full.
We're trying, man. Like at the end of the day, like it's everybody's plates are usually full, right? And
Mhm.
like we fill a lot of our time just like talking to each other and trying to like figure out, you know, what best to do in life. Because
Mhm.
like there's a lot of bullshit being, you know, thrown at us from different angles at the moment, right? Let's be honest about it. Like you don't have to really go into detail about the shit that's, you know, going on around us.
Yeah.
But
Well,
there's
I
a
mean,
lot of-
I'll go into a little bit of detail
Yeah.
because I mean, part of the audience we want to go for are students. At least I would. Who isn't a student, man? We're all students of life, but more specifically, university students. I've just finished a semester, and I'm always struck by the fact that as much as I appreciate the academic environment, the discipline of it all, the fact is, for your desire to become a better person through study, and
Yeah.
by extension to improve your community and the world at large, you are gouged at every corner.
which is ridiculous because that is the ultimate investment that a country should actually see.
Yeah,
is
and you
if
can see
get
Finland
youth
doing
to
this.
actually-
Finland has
A
actually
lot of countries
prioritized
in
this.
Europe actually, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Even
Germany.
England used to be, I believe it used to be free. The UK and like, you know, the other
Yeah.
countries in the UK, the education used to be free, but now it's still like cost feasible and very cheap.
Yeah,
That's pretty self-explanatory.
Well, see, I think
How do you expect your country to get better? Like,
I don't
just
think they want to though.
immigration, I guess,
See, that's
or-
the thing, man. I mean, I don't really care what people think this is. They can chalk it up to whatever they want. But I think countries or governments that recognize that their people have the greatest potential to affect things locally, they don't necessarily want to empower their people.
Yeah.
Power has always sought to consolidate itself by limiting access to information because that is your ultimate resource, like you said, right?
Yeah.
I mean, when you don't really think about it too much, we see it now and we think that it's, you know, things have come a long way and we're genuinely making an effort towards diplomacy and so on and so forth, trying to, you know, do what we can, but obviously if violence is necessary, people have to step in, look the other way on drones, what have you, but the
South
way...
Park, by the way.
Yeah.
You haven't watched the new season? They
I haven't
address
seen any of it.
drones. They address not dones. They address drones. They address Lord. They address
Yeah,
some
'cause
of the
that
most
needed to be
vital
addressed.
issues to today's youth.
Youth, yeah, okay.
But it's no, they actually did a pretty good job. And
Really?
like we've talked about this recently that you felt that they were kind of dropping off on their voice. Their
On it,
conscious
I
voice.
felt that way because, and like, I'm not the person to judge because I haven't seen their show in a little while. I thought things dropped off when I saw a WikiLeaks episode. Okay,
Yeah.
like it seemed to me they
That's.
they-
I mean, one episode is hard to base it off of. Like, is that?
It's
what
not.
Really,
No.
is
It
that-
wasn't. It wasn't because there was a slew of episodes,
okay.
like the Cthulhu
Yeah,
episode,
'cause
all that
that's what I
stuff. Like
thought, okay.
things. I don't know. The focus shifted from socially relevant issues to something a little less than core, if I can put it that way. But going back to what I was saying about the way wars used to occur, like during ancient times, the royalty would simply look and see. If you ever read Machiavelli's The Prince,
Yeah.
it does give you insight into how royalty view their populations.
Mhm.
And one of the ways in which you consolidate power and when you try and, you know, keep the people down, keep the people distracted, is you say, all right, well, let's have a war. Like, people are getting restless. I'll talk to this ruler. We'll have a war.
It
We'll
rallies
get
troops, right?
It rallies morale for the country. People get together, and
Yeah.
then after the war, the resources are depleted. You've taxed everybody, and many people have died. So you see less resistance from them. That's how it works, and it's working today. That's what's happening.
A practice, like actually like doing this again, because the whole podcasting and actually conversing with the camera in the room is a little bit hard to get used to sometimes. But you were just talking about right now.
Yeah, well, I mean, I kind of came out swinging there. Just the idea of being a student that we're gouged everywhere. Like BC
how
has
do
the
you feel
highest
about
interest
that
rate.
right now? Like right now in school, I was talking to you about this. The fact that you're going to school and you know you feel that
For that much money, you should be pulling a tremendous amount of value. And just
Yeah.
like anything,
because it's your time.
yeah,
Money is obviously an issue that we're just talking about now, but time is a big thing, right?
Yeah.
Like the fact that people are willing to give, you know, weeks, months, even years to people, like out of just obligation and stuff.
Yeah.
Like, they give so much of their time to people, but now the individual seconds that we have sovereign right over, like that's kind of where you have to like actually take your your rights back.
You're absolutely right about that, man. I think that gets downplayed a lot. Every other resource is made important except for time. And there was a philosopher I was listening to recently that I really, really liked. He's from Brazil. More than academia, he stepped into political life there. Roberto Unger.
Mm-hmm.
He talks about what is most important in politics, and that is the notion of life. What it means to have life. Life is what we have. Life is what we experience. You should work to make that as rich as possible in every respect, and what you have is the now.
Yeah.
I mean,
well, somebody posted like posting the 9 to 5 like whole like shift thing is just so bogus.
Yeah.
That it makes you into this schedule that you work for the weekend.
That's killing me, and this is one of the things he talks about too. He said it beautifully. He said what we've done now is we're still perpetuating the rule of the dead over the living.
Yeah.
And that's what this is. This is the mistakes of the past biting us. Right?
Well, I mean, just the fact that people are willing to pay their whole lives just for a box to like sleep in,
Mm-hmm. There's. I mean, it gets as poignant as you want to get. There's a post I saw recently that said, I wasn't born just to pay bills and die."
Yeah. Well, I mean, they say death and taxes, right?
Yeah, death. Yeah.
And then what are you saying?
That makes me fucking
like,
mad.
what are you saying when you say that those two things are sure, right? The death and taxes. That taxes meaning that you're gonna be stuck within that system, that paradigm.
Yeah.
Like even though that's a thing that people throw around all the time, death and taxes, the two sure things, right? That's pretty scary to think about. That's like kind of big, the big powers kind of telling you like, straight up like.
Okay, but again,
you're
that's
always
two-way
gonna be paying.
And I think that's a really good point because that can bring us into what I actually really wanted to talk about, and that's part of that. You said the big power there, right? That's a two-way street in that's being imposed on us, but that big power is a reflection of ourselves.
Yeah.
Okay, the government is a part of us.
Definitely, we as the people have the power to like
right.
dethrone these people too.
Yeah,
right?
and to say that it's beyond us, like I hate this system, but I'm going to function within it because it affords me these niceties. Yeah. You're just as much empowering that system.
Yeah, no,
okay? and nobody like I know that's really uncomfortable.
Well, the system's being kind of challenged now a lot, right?
Yeah,
like, You have a lot of people. Cops are being filmed so much more in Ferguson,
and they're not all bad. Like there's cops giving AMAs on Reddit talking about the fact that it's not easy to catch crooked or corrupt cops. A lot of them don't want to work with these people.
Yeah,
because. Yeah, you do have to be a little idealistic if you want to be a cop in the first place, albeit practical, but you got to say, all right, maybe I can have an effect on the community in a positive way, and obviously we need to strong-arm some issues, and obviously be investigative. But, so you see that, you're just as much as the problem, but what I really wanted to talk about is, it seems I've had recently an influx in my life of people that, let's say of a more religious persuasion, of whatever kind, okay? It doesn't matter which one specifically.
Specifically, let's be straight, right? Like ladies that have been coming into your lives, right?
Not just ladies, man, but like
have been like that's kind of the strange thing is the interaction is being forced into your life. Otherwise, you wouldn't necessarily have religious people kind of influencing you as much, right?
Not, like, I mean, I'm always happy to have people of different faiths to talk to, man. But this has been a little more aggressive, and what the main point of this though is that I'm experiencing people in my life that are keen to externalize their own power, to say that the God, Jesus, Muhammad, whatever you want to call it, that is outside of you. That is something you may strive towards, but you'll never be there.
And that's one thing that my parents would always say growing up as kids, like they'd say like, you shouldn't have pictures of these people in this, or you shouldn't relate yourself to these people. It's like, we'll never get to that point, right? But that's one of the things that I always kind of condition myself away from, and Sikhism always tells people to not believe either, is that, to not believe that you can reach complete divinity, to put like limits on yourself, that's not really part of any core religion or fundamental practice of like spirituality, right? Like,
I think the second half was right, saying like fundamental spirituality says that, but in religion, that's built into it, man, because religion to me, it seems, is a way of condensing some of the important aspects of religion spirituality, and putting it in such a way that you're stuck on the treadmill. You're going to keep reaching for
like,
that.
People did back in the day not have like morals and ethics, right? Like you had to tell people not to kill You had to tell people. So, but nowadays it's like our
Yeah, well,
communities.
I mean, it
actually
wasn't necessarily
instill-
so much religion that was responsible for that because
No,
initially,
but I'm not saying religion was. I'm saying religion came about
yeah,
to kind of, bridge the gap between that
Yeah.
ignorance or whatever.
yeah.
right?
I mean,
So-
because we went from nomadic tribes
Yeah.
that were functioning based on our instincts in order to, kill or be killed, right?
to actually,
And then you
like,
amalgamate into larger and larger groups.
And
Yeah,
once we-
something has to help work with that.
exactly.
But I'm not. I would never say that it was this archetypal figure.
Yeah.
We've all made contributions. We're all
Yeah.
making contributions all the time with every decision that we make.
Yeah.
Something that I deal with on a regular basis. Like, in order to challenge myself, I'll often go walking around my neighborhood at night, and like that seems like a weird thing to do, but what it does is it puts you right into the middle of the unknown. I live out in the middle of nowhere now, and there's no artificial lighting where I am, and I'm always in a situation where I'm wondering what is this, because your brain is very active at that time. It's telling you that you're seeing things that aren't there.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. You've had a lot of conditioning, but I'll walk by a mailbox and my brain will go like, that's something. That's like, you need to run. Your brain will tell you this.
Yeah.
And I like being in that state so that I can learn to recognize that fear and learn to control myself in it. Learn to make different decisions.
Yeah.
Right? Because at some point in our lives, if we want to make meaningful change, we'll be there too. Imagine that you're on the front lines of a protest. You have guns or you're being threatened with mace.
Yeah.
You have to make a decision at that point. And the thing is, we've always made choices based on fear in the past. A lot of us, we've made great strides. I mean, you look at the civil rights movement, that was a big step, right? That's an example of making the right choice in the face of fear. But unless you train yourself to deal with this sort of thing, it's not very likely
To
that
deal with
you'll
what, sorry?
to deal with fear,
Yeah.
to deal with having to make a decision, the right decision in the face of fear.
In the face of adversity or fear, yeah.
Yeah.
No, I mean that's kind of what happens is that when it comes down to making the quick decision, that's where a lot of people hesitate, right?
Yeah.
So,
Well, because we live in we're so comfortable, and that's one of the reasons why the dichotomy to me is I look at people living in the third world, and obviously the infrastructure is not necessarily there, although they do receive a bit of it in terms of advertising and so on, but it's not so pronounced there because the challenges to them are so great in obtaining their necessities in some cases that they don't often have enough time or resources to look beyond that and reach their higher order needs, whereas we have all the time and money in the world. We just don't have the perception that we do. We can access our higher potential at any time, but we are inundated with distractions.
yeah.
Just everywhere you look, all
Yeah.
the time. I almost feel like the volume's been turned up now because it seems like static everywhere I
Yeah,
go.
and when you listen to ads on, like we were listening to the ads
Yeah.
on the radio and stuff, there's almost like it's hard to believe that these ads are pushed out, and that consumers are actually somehow
Yeah,
duped by these.
who gives these the green light?
They're really fucking.
They're
stupid.
really fucking stupid.
Like they're
man.
actually like stupid, right? And
Yeah.
it's like, and to see like how easily they put it together, and the dialogue that they
Yeah.
write for these.
And I think we don't I don't think anybody. I hope to fucking God that nobody is stupid enough to be bought by these commercials. I don't think anybody
There's
is.
one
But in the
commercial-
back of your head, you're like, what if? We always do that.
There's this one commercial where it's like these kids, right? They go up to this mom. It's like a radio commercial. And they're like, "Mommy, we want to get some
Like,
some
package,
stockings
yeah.
and all this stuff and like the wrapping and all this stuff." And she's like, wait kids, can I please just 1 second get a high five for the Christmas spirit?" And it was like a Target commercial, right? So it was like kind of implying that she was gonna be like exhausted and be like, "Oh my God, gotta stop." But then it was telling parents essentially, they're like, "All right, guys,
Just keep it going.
get it going,"
Yeah.
and that was the message, right? And I was like, "Holy shit!"
Yeah. If you listen to the commercials for the source, we just listened to this. Their tagline is, "I want that. I want that."
Yeah.
What the fuck is that?
I want that. No, well, like there's a lot of weird taglines to.
Yeah, by the way, if you guys ever eat at Wendy's, look at, you don't see this so much on their big logo, but look at the bag that you get it in, look at the drink. It says "Mom" right underneath her neck.
Yeah.
I have
Yeah,
no
yeah.
doubt that is subliminal.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
Mom. You're like, oh, Mom made it.
Yeah,
I'll
it's like
eat
a
it.
necklace or something. Like,
Yeah, I don't know. It's her like frilly neck thing and then a little pendant.
Says
It says Mom. It says Mom.
Straight up, it says "Mom." Yeah, so like subliminal
Yeah.
advertising.
And
is
Banksy's
everywhere.
really good about that. He's like, if they have the right to just throw this shit in your face, you have the right to throw whatever you want back.
Yeah.
That's your public space.
I think the realizing that me and Graham are really having nowadays is that we always kind of, as kids, have this idea that the people that run society, that run like the
Yeah, we
higher
thought there
parts
was a
of society,
meritocracy.
we thought that there was like a certain amount of organization and understanding and education that is required to like run the higher ends of the
Mhm.
spectrum and everything. But now, literally, as things progress, we're realizing that there's
There's so few
there's
reluctant
a lot of
leaders up
stupid
there.
people running stuff.
Yeah,
Like
what-
not even just running the country, running like when I was working for UPS, right?
Mhm.
And I was delivering packages to like all these businesses and stuff. And a lot of the people were really nice to me, and
Mhm.
some of the people were extremely rude. And I had noticed that like there were people that were not intelligent and were just given like delegated one specific responsibility. So through delegation of responsibility now, businesses run, right?
Mhm.
But like the people that actually run the businesses, I'm really surprised by like
Yeah.
the lack of understanding or knowledge about anything relating to the industry, right? So it's like now the understanding with me and a lot of friends is,
Yeah.
like even in the past when we started our businesses, it's that it doesn't take a lot to start a business, right?
No, that's
So-
something I noticed too. Like, I've worked at a lot of restaurants. I'm working at a warehouse at the moment, and it really is amazing when you stop and look at not the nature of the job itself, because I think anybody can do any job.
Yeah.
When I say job, I mean job, not career. Careers are different. They're based
Yeah.
on your passion and your talents. But anybody can do any job, and you're right. A lot of it gets delegated out, but you really notice the quality of people in these places.
Yeah.
Like, some people are so amazing, just bright, wonderful people that are hardworking. Their integrity's there.
Yeah.
They are exemplars. They're pillars of the community, and you can
Yeah.
see them. And it is a shame, because that delegation of the community also hurts the fact that they could be performing so much more.
Yeah.
They could be making themselves and the community at large greater. But
we were talking about this yesterday, the fact that we know so many people that have all of these different classes of skills,
Yeah.
right? These assets that we haven't really put together properly, but just through the amount of people that me and you know, right? Like
Yeah.
we could make a community that could be really like efficient and stuff, but we just don't sit down and really like
Mhm.
conceive how much we can change the world.
yeah, well,
Because everything is available to us now, and you're seeing examples of that everywhere, that people who are just coming into industries
yeah,
just with an idea
yeah,
are just killing it. Like these kids in Washington, they made a mobile app so that you can get a dispensary to just deliver to you mobily.
Yeah.
And that's not a big deal, right? And they're like pretty young, 21, 22 years old. And I always hear about people jokingly coming up with apps here and there.
yeah,
But these guys actually went, and one of them was
Yeah.
a developer,
yeah.
and he coded it, and they're
And
killing
off you
it,
go, really.
right? And that's
It's that easy,
I think SoundCloud now is gonna sell like their company, which is
really.
like, so there's all these companies that started out of nowhere from just a concept,
Mm-hmm.
and then you look at the people that actually started it, and you're like, that person doesn't really look like they're that extraordinary or anything, right? You'll have your coding geniuses, your Mark Zuckerbergs here and there, right? But
Yeah, there's a lot of speculation about that. Like, I don't know.
if he's actually
Well, I don't know, man. I just know that a lot of the startup money for Facebook came from InQtel, which is the CIA's venture capital firm. I mentioned this before.
yeah,
So that's why I kind of take it with a grain of salt. To me, it looks like an ingenious system for taking in suspects who, in turn, put in their own information into that
Yeah.
database. That's like maybe a hyper paranoid view, man, but like when you look at it as a whole, that's not far fetched at all.
yeah,
That's a really smart idea, and a
Yeah.
lot of these agencies function with 3, 4, 5 pronged attacks. They take care of a lot of birds with one stone at
Yep.
once. That's how it works.
yeah,
And they're not always bright, like you said. Like it's based on the delegation of tasks. Like somebody gets to a position. Like initially, when the U.S. was testing nuclear bombs, some of the things that they were doing with not A bombs, a little smaller down the chain, but they were working with the idea of fracking back in the 80s, 70s, and 80s, right? And they were using bombs at this time.
So
they would
just
use
to be
a-
clear, for people that don't know what fracking is, though, right?
I'm pretty sure they have to know what fracking is.
yeah,
It's when there are pockets of gas,
yeah.
pre-existing pockets of natural gas underground, and we use different techniques. Primarily, we use water to blast down and free up the gas, where then we collect it. We have different ways of doing this, right?
Yeah, and
That's
usually
essentially it.
the digging is downward. So
Yeah.
pre-existing actual wells that have been dug down, you can frack them. Fracking is going across instead
Yeah.
of down. So the idea is that you can go back to sites that have already been mined and re-mine them, right? So fracking, however, has a very, very significant effect on the natural environment around the area. Right?
Absolutely, like it contaminates the groundwater. The ground itself is full of contaminants. The
All
amount of
the-
chemicals, all
yeah,
the shit that they
exactly.
use. They take how many millions of gallons?
No idea. Yeah, but
Like just they
insane
contaminate
amount, yeah.
unbelievable amounts. Like a lake, something like a small lake is used every time that they frack, and
you
that's
would-
100%
And
contaminated.
you would wonder, like, why is it that something that is so substantially,
Poisonous for
poisonous
the
to the environment, how is that allowed through the cracks? And the fact of the matter is that if there's a big enough of a paycheck coming out of it, that's kind of how it's gonna be, right? And
Mhm.
right now, they a lot of people say that we're running out of oil in the world, that the Saudi
Which is
Arabian countries
100%
and all these
bullshit.
countries are running out of oil reserves.
Yeah,
But one of the biggest problems right now that like I heard about, I think 5 or 6 months ago, is that from your ancestral land, I guess, or your motherland, right, Australia.
I'm
they
not a
found-
patriot, but yeah, sure.
They found the largest ever reserve of oil, larger than that of all the Arabic countries
OPEC nations,
and
yeah.
all of those areas and stuff. And they've actually now said that they have enough oil and rough oil to actually produce into about 30 years of gasoline now.
Yeah,
Right? So
we're drowning in oil. That's
so
what it
that's
is.
and that's
And it's not even that, man. Like you
and
look at what
oil
they've
prices
done.
have dropped now too. For the first time today, we saw 99.9, right?
Yeah,
Which is,
that's really weird. Like that to me signaled a more of an apocalyptic feeling, although that term is misused, than
Yeah.
almost anything else I've seen. But more than that, man, they've been doing mining on the moon for the past little while. They've been
Yeah.
working with
there was a guy that
helium
actually
three.
released a statement. Did you hear about that? The guy that
Yeah.
said that there's moon wars going on. you heard
Yeah, I
about
wouldn't
this?
doubt it, man.
You
No,
hear
I
about this at all?
didn't hear about
There's
this guy,
this-
but I don't doubt it.
Yeah, this was recent. There's a guy that came out in a big public statement saying that what's actually going on.
Right,
in the
yeah,
moon
now
is not-
China's trying to jump on it. Yeah, there's another space race to get their hands on helium-3.
I haven't heard that.
Oh, helium-3. I'm just trying to. It is a form of helium, and it's
Helium is a
tremendously
fun
efficient.
gas.
It's used in space.
For
Yeah.
making people's voices like
Yeah.
humiliate. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they can use that, and that would be a sufficient enough fuel to wean the planet off. Like there's enough of that in just a small quantity to
Yeah.
completely wean us all off whatever energy we've been using for the past, couple centuries.
well. I mean, that's
But-
not even like me and you know that.
Oh yeah, just
The-
look at
the
Tom
sustain-
Bearden's look at Tom Bearden's website. Tom Bearden. This is a guy who's been looking at multiple forms of free energy.
Anybody with the name Beard in their last name, like you should definitely check out. So Tom Bearden.
Yeah.
Tom Bearden.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, no, I mean, and he's just one example.
Yeah.
Look at Tesla's work back
We
then.
can't mention Tesla anymore. We've mentioned him too much. Right?
Okay,
So
but
it's
I
like-
mean, I'll never stop pumping him, man. And
Yeah.
I'm so happy that history's bearing itself out now that Edison
GTA
was
has
just a dick.
Coil car. Have you seen that in GTA, the new one? It's
A what? No, I
instead of a
haven't.
Tesla, right? It's called the Coil.
No,
in the
that's
car?
crazy. I hadn't seen
Yeah, I
that.
saw that. Like my friends were playing it online and
Really?
stuff. It's like one of the craziest cars in the game.
Yeah, I bet.
But that's Tesla's been far gone and still inventing. He's like the real Tony Stark. Right? That's what I was thinking one day.
Yeah.
I was like, Tony Stark, whatever, weapons genius, right?
Yeah.
But Tesla was also hired to be a weapons genius.
If there's a steampunk artist out there, I'd
Oh,
like
wow.
to see a Tesla Iron Man mashup. That would be something else. What the hell? Maybe I'll do it up. But yeah, I felt like it's really worth going back to the topic of religion because that's something we want to talk about. The idea of externalizing your own abilities. That's really what the crux of the issue is, I think, on the planet is the fact that we're not taking responsibility for our own power. We're saying that we are not capable of doing this, therefore we're not responsible for the issues created in the world. I think
And-
that's 100% bullshit.
Yeah,
man.
and like that goes back to like giving that responsibility to like your savior or whatever, right? And
Yeah.
saying that like I'm now like in their mercy or whatever.
People look at, like, there's pictures of Jesus all over the place saying, like, I was thinking of you when I was on that cross. And it's just like, that's
Yeah.
totally misrepresenting. the-
Yeah, I mean,
like,
well, the whole story of Jesus is put into question, anyways, right? But at the end of the day, though, the thing is that people attack specific religions when all of them are pretty much absurd now, right? Like,
yeah,
so,
I mean,
so,
like I said,
like,
I think they're ways of.
and when I say absurd, by the way, like straight up, okay, here's what it comes down to: is that nowadays religions, rather than causing us to come together as a, like, you know,
Yeah, they're forcing division.
they've always forced that, right? The wars that have been fought throughout our histories have been waged with religious flags, right? Like with people taking crosses and stuff and going across, and you know, the crusades
Yeah.
and all that stuff.
And I don't want to be.
The amount of times that we've actually, under the name of God, killed so many people.
Mhm.
So like the thing is that religion has to actually justify itself now. Into our modern culture, it has to actually justify its relevance to our culture now. Now it's not that religion gets, you know, the get out of jail free card every single time. Like it just gets the, you know,
No.
Now it's straight
Yeah,
up is that
because
people are calling
we
it to
think
court.
we have
right?
like there's so much relativism in that, saying like, all right, well, that's just them, and they can hang on to
But
that.
it's people attack one religion though, right? And they'll attack Islam. But it's like you have to, if you're gonna attack one, you have to attack all of them. They're all absurd then.
Well,
You can't. That's what pisses me off.
I think
now.
this is important though to say this, because we've said a lot just now, and there's a documentary I'm sure a lot of people have seen. It's been on Netflix. It's called The Unbelievers, and it's got Richard Dawkins and some other guy.
Richard
no
Dawkins, by
offense.
the way, he's really a learned individual. But the thing is that the guy just like does not have positive vibes. Like
No,
he
that's what I found during like the documentary is really it came off with more of bickering than it did of anything constructive coming out. Like I understand the points. Christopher Hitchens did say it well. It's essentially what we're saying now. He does, and
I know that's my character at the moment too. But it's like when you're approaching this type of debate, right? He's approaching it with the atheist annoyed perspective. The annoyed atheist perspective.
And by the way, like that's not something where the default I think idea is that if you're finding religion is absurd, then you're an atheist.
Yeah.
That's not the case.
No,
like far from it.
And we're not anti-theists either.
No.
Actually, no. You know what? Anti-theist maybe. That's the thing. A theist. Like theology. Maybe we are anti-theists, right? But I don't think we're atheists because we don't know. Atheist would be like
not hesitate to even say agnostic. Frankly, like I really try to get away from titles because once you slap a label on something, you've confined it to.
But it's that people are going to label you, so it's like you always have to be willing to understand which labels are going to apply and which ones have some relevance, right? Because like at the fact is, no labels have relevance, but there's always going to be people that will throw certain labels around. And it's like you can't live in a shell and say that.
Of course, but I'm just going to say that like we don't. The other day I was talking to somebody and they kept trying to classify me as a Buddhist, as a Hindu, as an atheist, and none of those things stick. And at the end of the day, people can say whatever they want. What you're going to do is you're going to act in your own way, and from that, whatever label follows. You know, all you can do is act. But
just be a good person, right? And
like, I mean, Bo Burnham really fucking nailed it in his song,
Bo
which
Burnham,
was beautiful.
Again, God's perspective. We've pumped that so many times.
Who needs 1,000 metaphors to realize you shouldn't be a dick?
Yeah, straight up, right? And that's religions have now. Religion, I'd say the idea behind religion was great. It was that there was a time when people needed to have, you know, a certain amount of belief, a certain amount of system, a certain amount of like belief in that their actions had consequences, that if you did something, you know, there would be consequences as a result. Now we just know that you don't want to hurt other individuals. You don't have to believe that some magical being is going to curse you and all this stuff. So I'm not saying my idea here behind these podcasts is not to just push religion into a corner or anything like that. I'm saying that now we live in a very different time, and to say that, you know, religions cannot be modernized, that you have to be fundamental religion, all this and that. Religion is a game of telephone, whether we like to accept it or not. And the longer they've been around, the longer that game, that circle has been propagated, and the more the message has changed. So it does come down to the older religions have more, you know, stuff piled on that's not really the original message. So, you know, that's the kind of society that we've kind of established around us, is that religion has always been there in the background, right? And I feel like now people are questioning that. They're questioning why we have Puritan beliefs in North America and certain things, like why sex is still talked about with a certain amount of like, it's like a very discussed topic. Like it's very like Like, you know how when
I think
you know how when kids
Yeah.
like, are like when they first start talking about sex, they're so eager to talk
Yeah.
about it, right?
Yeah.
And it's every conversation.
Yeah. And then
That's
it's
like
very
what
quick.
our whole race is like right now.
Yeah.
Like, but if you go to a culture which has had sex around for ages, right,
Yeah.
and has established like its relevance and its importance in life, and has like, you know, they
Yeah.
don't talk about it as much because it's just a part of their life, right?
Yeah, I think
So-
we've really schism in that, like, in terms of sex, we're either like trying to handle it with puritanical gloves, trying to sanitize it and give it to kids in, you know, it's almost being taught to you, you know, like Everybody Poops book.
Yeah.
It's like that, you know. It's really like, all right, this is what it is. This
Oh,
is
yeah.
just something that happens to you, and here it is.
And
you know,
they don't really
And then on the
follow
other
it.
side, it's like, this is really fucking sexy. Everything is just hyper sexed.
Yeah.
That's the alternative. But yeah, you're right. We don't. There's not really a relaxed perspective on it,
Yeah.
man. Like top 40s music is fucked.
Yeah, but when I sit down, like recently,
I know that sounded like a left turn to some
Yeah.
people, man. But like, think
No,
about it, man.
the
Listen
actual,
to the fucking innuendo.
yeah,
Come
and
on.
It's like Anaconda. Like, it's like the music videos now. There's no subtlety. Like, I understand I sound like an old person when I'm saying this because, like, you know, back in my day, whatever. But I'm not trying to do that. I'm saying straight up, Anaconda, like twerking, is riding a dick.
Yeah.
Like, that's what twerking is. Let's not bullshit. Twerking,
Yeah.
like twisting and jerking, right? And now to like, it's really trippy to see this being everywhere. I went to like UBC and there's like UBC's annual twerk fest, right? And I was like, this is run by students and stuff. This is trippy as hell, right? And they also had like, when I was walking around campus, I saw the class talking about Snowden too, right? I told
No
you
kidding.
about that.
Yeah.
But yeah, one of the things that whole twerk culture that's come around, it's like, you know, it's back to that adolescent idea that like talking about sex, like it's like something that's like such a new topic, and it's something and it's like the last 20-30, I'd say the last 20 years especially have just been drenched in it, right? But it's like we haven't actually talked about sex away from this, you know, almost adolescent kind of approach to it, right?
Yeah.
So when police, you know, Sting from the Police, right? When him and his wife came back from India, they told everybody that they somehow discovered a method to have like orgasms lasting hours, and then everybody got curious as to this Indian sexual like
Yeah.
thing with the Kama Sutra and Tantra and all this
Yeah.
stuff, and people got interested in it. But before that, prior to that, nobody knew about it because it was like a different culture.
Mhm.
Now there is a little bit of influence coming from, you know, you have Bikram
Yeah.
yoga and all this stuff.
But it's funny too
which is
because
not
I mean,
really related
India's
to sex,
still
but it's like
India's
just-
still like a lot of it is. It's not, you know, anti-sex, but you can like.
Oh, because
Nudity
India
is
changed
not,
though as a result of British.
Yeah.
Like
for
the
sure.
British.
By the way, interesting note. I just picked this up. You know, the Muslim Brotherhood was actually conceived in England. Like the notion of the Muslim Brotherhood came together in England, in London. Yeah.
I mean that.
And then
makes
you saw
sense
the, like,
'cause,
yeah.
like Bradford in England, like in the
Yeah.
UK, is known for like all it's the Muslim community and stuff, and there's a lot of Muslims.
Yeah.
in London.
And you know, and this is one of the things I found upsetting because I was listening to a podcast today, featuring Dr. Bill Deagle. He picked up, he was looking at the Arab Spring protests, and a lot of people, including us, looked at that and said, like, all right, this is great. This is people protesting. However, that was, you know, that was a manufactured coup. They were
Yeah.
using Western media platforms, social media platforms, to try and facilitate this regime change.
Yeah, I know, and we've seen coups happening all over the world, right? And that's like there's
Yeah.
one in Thailand, and like, you know, the ones that are going, you know, in a lot of countries actually right now. So people are kind of just
Yeah,
getting
and
tired
it's
of
a lot of it has lately, like this. We could go on and on about police brutality right now. Like that's been
so
unbelievable
much,
right
yeah.
now.
Yeah, and
That's just unreal.
I
My
mean,
heart
people-
goes out to the families that are suffering from those directly. I
in
cannot
New York,
imagine the
they had a
pain.
massive gathering today.
Yeah,
So the
DC,
solidarity
everywhere.
that's been coming together is good, right? One thing that we want to like, we're actually running at about 30 something minutes now, so pretty good for our first one back. But we wanted to, I wanted to personally mention before we go out here, there is massive protests that are going on right now in Burnaby, I believe, that are for the pipeline that's being proposed.
I'd say big, not massive.
Yeah, so the thing is that we support these protests, right?
Yeah.
Because we don't want this pipeline to come in. Northern
No,
Pipeline
it's
is something
ridiculous.
that me and Graham personally have.
A lot of problems with.
So
Just to be aware, we'll be coming up on Wednesday, bringing up food or maybe anything you guys need. We're gonna try to organize that and come up. But in the meantime, stay strong. just to all of you, we love you. Take care of yourselves.
Yeah, and like we are sending out our love and support to you guys. We'll try to come out and support as much as we can. They're trying to make it illegal for them to protest. We're not gonna let that happen. So Good News Podcast, sorry, still going strong. We're gonna keep coming out. We're gonna keep putting out videos. Maybe start off some side projects. Thank you for watching. Keep listening. Peace and love from Graham and Sapir.
Take it easy, guys.